Yo, I welcome you all to a brand new series on the channel for draft. We have the MRL League, Draft League, and I had to quickly search for what MRL even stood for. I'm gonna lie, participating in this draft league, I don't even know what the freaking initial stands for, but MRL, the Mono Egg Rainbow League, is a monotype draft that I've found myself participating in. Hasn't started yet, but the aim of this video is basically to go over what I drafted and how like my mindset was going into this draft. So either way, I appreciate the support on the previous videos, particularly the PU one and the Beartic video as well. Shout out to everyone watching my videos and stuff. If you aren't already subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. On our way to 300 subscribers, I know we can do it very easily. So yeah, if you aren't subscribed yet, please subscribe. But either way, the MRL Draft League, I was told by the people that were running the DBA draft league, the draft league I've been covering on my channel for quite a bit now, and they were like, if you need some new content ideas, sign up for the MRL draft league. Obviously, I'm a Monotype player this gen. To be fair, I've been playing Monotype since Gen 7, but I'm a main of a Monotype this gen, and like passing up a Natdex Monotype format, how could I do that? So yeah, we're gonna be covering this draft league. So this draft league works a bit differently from other draft leagues. Now, DBA, for example, was just a pretty much standard draft. You just drafted anything depending on what points you had. But there is a point system in the MRL, but there's also a tier list system in this draft league, which some draft leagues do. Like, they do have a tier list sort of system where you don't draft on points, but rather the tiers. Like, you can only draft a certain amount of tier 1s or tier 2s and stuff like that. And MRL is no different, but it still has the traditional point system, which I'll mention later. But either way, let's go over how you're supposed to draft in the MRL league. And essentially, each team must contain one Pokemon from tier 1, one Pokemon from tier 2, two Pokemon from tier 3, one Pokemon from tier 4, and one Pokemon from tier 5. You also require a Mega Evolution, and you also need 4 additional slots, which you're given 400 points to draft. So after you get your tier 1s to tier 5s, your necessary tier 1 to tier 5s, and you also get your Mega Evolution, you have then 400 points to draft some extra picks, and there's only 4, so you only get 4 extra picks. And obviously you either start with 400 points, which can be reduced or increased depending on what Mega Evolution you decide to go for. So let me tell you guys what type I went for. So I went with Water, of course, and I won't show my team yet because I do just want to do it on Showdown and like get a box ready so I can show you guys which Pokemon I drafted. But I decided to draft the Water type. Definitely one of my favorite types I've used in Monotype. Is also a pretty top type in general. Like, Water has the most mons, so on average you have better Pokemon than certain types. Water is also pretty good defensively, is also good offensively. There's a lot of things you can do with Water, and the thing is, I chose Water knowing this, and like, to be honest, I want to say I was having a difficult time drafting. It was more, like, there was a lot of ideas in my head. I have about like 3 pages I wrote worth of like stuff I needed to do, strategizing which extra picks I could get. It was a very fun time, honestly, but also very stressful at the same time. But either way, let's hop on to Showdown here. I did not draft Volcanion. I was just looking at it because I was like, Grace Period is still going on right now. Maybe I should get Volcanion, but I don't know. So either way, we'll get a box going. That was a team. A box basically allows me to just choose more than 6 Pokemon, and I think I have 11 Pokemon to choose from. So either way, I'm gonna be starting from the top, tier 1 down to tier 5, and my extra picks, you get me? So yeah, let's do that now. So my tier 1 pick in this Water type draft was Toxapex. Now, Water only had a couple of tier 1s. Like, I've also written down what was possible for me to draft. Like, I have too much paper around me right now. But either way, out of the available tier 1s, it was either realistically Toxapex or Iron Bundle. Now, the unfortunate reality was the Ice type guy in the draft, there's a guy that drafted Ice as he's typing. They chose Iron Bundle just before me, so which was an obvious pick, to be honest. Ice doesn't have that many tier 1 Pokemon in general, so it was either Iron Bundle or they threw the entire draft, to be fair. So I knew that I wasn't going to get Iron Bundle, but at the same time I was already planning around Toxapex anyway. So the reason why I want Toxapex is because of the fact that Toxapex is just a good defensive Pokemon to have. Like, the stats wise, Toxapex is very bulky. It also helps me out in many other matchups as well that I'll be encountering in this division. There's a poison type matchup, there's a bug type matchup. You know, Toxapex resists both of those types. I can also get rid of T-Spike, so I'm not going to get 6-0'd by poison, for example. So yeah, Toxapex is also very good at that. Also has T-Spikes of its own. It should be helpful in certain matchups as well. It has Haze to stop setup sweepers, particularly on Dragon side, Dark side. And you know, it's just a solid mon, defensive mon in general. Now, I could have foregone defense and just gone like Dracovish or, you know, Walking Wake in my tier 1 slot, but I was like, I'd rather have a solid defensive core in my opinion, because it's very easy for me to just draft Rain and not have any defensive backbone at all. But I feel like as I've gotten more used to draft, I feel like I need a defensive core. I feel like I need something to fall back on if Rain fails. Because if I go like full Rain, just go Kingdra, Mega Swampert, some other Swiss Swimmers, Barraskewda, Kabutops, all of them lot, yeah. If that fails and I'm in a matchup where Rain just looks absolutely finished, then I have a lower chance of winning the game. I want to have a balance of, you know, I can go Rain in some matchups and I can also go sort of a balanced, bulky offense build in another matchup. So that's why Toxapex was my tier 1 pick. So my tier 2 pick next was Pelipper. You know, obviously I need Pelipper. Now, Pelipper is not the only Pokemon that is non-Ubers that has the ability to Drizzle. There's also Politoed, but the issue with Politoed is that Politoed is not in the same tier as Pelipper. Pelipper's in tier 2, while Politoed's in tier 3. So I already have my tier 3 slots decided, and I was like, yeah, we're not going to be choosing Politoed. I'm not gonna lie, I need my tier 3 slots, because you get 2 of those guys, you know, and I need 2 of them specifically. So that's why, you know, Politoed was just out of the question. Pelipper, you know, the defining Drizzle mon since Generation 7. Like, pretty much once Pelipper got Drizzle, got his special attack buffed in Generation 7, Politoed kind of just disappeared. But in the draft setting, you know, usage stats don't really play, like usage-based tiering doesn't really take it into account in draft, but just because like Pelipper got all of that, Politoed was, you know, seen as inferior. But yeah, Pelipper has a lot of stuff it can do, especially in the Natdex format. You know, I have the combination of Defog and Roost. You know, in current Gen 9, Pelipper does not have Defog. So, you know, this is Hadron removal, also sets my Rain. I think that's the #1 priority thing I should be taking into account here, that, you know, Pelipper is able to set up Rain for me. Also has a pretty good move pool in U-turn gets in, you know, my breakers, you know. Also good in the bug matchup. Like, I'm always considering what my dual type water types are capable of doing within the division. You know, there's a bug type team, which obviously bugs weak to flying. I can switch in on a lot of those Pokemon, and then U-turn out and getting, you know, my Mega Swampert, or I basically just spoiled my Mega, but, you know, I was obviously going Mega Swampert out of all of Water's Mega Evolutions. But yeah, I'm able to get my Swiss Swim Mons, I'm able to do all of that good stuff as well. But yeah, that was my first tier 2. Now on to tier 3. We're going to start off with Cloyster because it's alphabetically first. But yeah, Cloyster is pretty good, and I took it from the Ice guy because I don't know, like the Snake draft was coming. Like, I had Toxapex first pick, then it went back to the Flying guy. The Flying guy, I was praying they didn't take Pelipper for whatever reason, but once the Flying guy took Pelipper, I was just like, cool, I'm before the Water guy now, because you know it's a Snake draft. It goes one way and then it just goes back the opposite way. So I was able to be like, yes, I'm confirmed Pelipper and Cloyster, because I get Cloyster before Pelipper, and obviously Pelipper can't get sniped because the Flying guy's turn just passed. So yeah, I was able to get Cloyster. The reason why I chose Cloyster, realistically, I had a decent option from, you know, the tier 3s, for example. Some standout picks in tier 3 included Jellicent, Dondozo, Blastoise, Mantine, Politoed, of course, Seismitoad, and Vaporeon, stuff like that. But I was like, cool, I'm gonna go Cloyster because I would like to have some offensive capabilities, and Ice is just disgustingly offensively as well. Like, it helps me out in the Dragon matchup, it helps me out in the Flying matchup. Like, Cloyster at +2 is also just threatening as well. And you know what the funny thing is, guys? This draft league has King's Rock legal. Now, if you guys don't know what King's Rock plus Cloyster is, well, it was one of the main reasons why King's Rock suddenly started getting banned, starting from Generation 8 onwards. Because Cloyster would set up with Shell Smash, and you'd have a 50% chance of flinching with skill link moves. So, obviously, King's Rock is free, and I was like, there's no way I'm passing up Cloyster that has King's Rock. Now, the tough thing about Cloyster, unfortunately, is the fact that, like, even though it has 180 defense, its special defense and HP are lacking. So, obviously, like either Focus Sash is good, Heavy Duty Boots. Like I don't know how many matchups I would be able to go King's Rock, but having King's Rock against something like, especially something like Psychic, which has Pokemon like Slowbro that pretty much should handle Cloyster pretty efficiently on the physical side. I can pretty much just hacks those 50% of the time. So hopefully it comes into clutch. Even though it got Signal Beam, that might actually be helpful in the Psychic matchup. Like again, Cloyster has good offensive stats, especially when it's at +2. So, you know, stuff like that would be interesting. So yeah, that's my first tier 3. The second tier 3 is another defensive staple on water teams, which is Empoleon. Now, there was no steel people in this draft. It should already be on the screen, but the types that are there are Flying, Poison, Dragon, Dark, Water, Ice, Psychic, Electric, Bug, and Rock. So obviously, Empoleon was completely uncontested for me because there was no Steel type users in my division. So yeah, why did I draft Empoleon? Now, Water Steel is one of the best defensive typings in the game. You know, Water and Steel on their own are quite good defensively. Add them together and you get a really good defensive typing. You have so many resistances, Poison immunity, Flying resist, you know, ×4 resistance to ice, which also just makes you neutral to freeze dry as well. So that's also a pretty good thing for water to have, particularly against an ice guy in my division that has access to Kyurem and Iron Bundle at the same time, you know. So having a steel type is pretty solid, and it's the only water steel type. I kind of have to choose it, you get me? So it's also Psychic resist, the Bug resist. Like, Empoleon's typing is so good, I would be thrown if I didn't draft it. It's also a rocker. It has defog potential. You know, defog. It can also be physical. I was gonna say physical Empoleon. Now 86 attack plus Defiant and SD. Maybe I'm cooking with that later, but you know, it's not primarily a physical attacker. It has 111 special attack, and I feel like in some matchups, you know, like Empoleon's not a passive Pokemon. Like, it has good moves. It has Scald. It has Flash Cannon. It has Stab. Also has Grass Knot as well. Don't know if Grass Knot comes into play here, but you know, you still have access to Hidden Power as well in this division. So, you know, coming off of a decent special attack stat, Empoleon's a pretty solid one to have. So yeah, those are my 2 tier 3 Pokemon. I think they're gonna be putting in the work, particularly Cloyster. I have high hopes in Cloyster, hopefully. But yeah, let's go on to our tier 4 now, guys. And our tier 4 is none other than Tauros, Paldea, Aqua. Now, again, tier 4 and tier 5, not to say these mons are bad. To be fair, there are some like awful Pokemon in tier 5 for water, but you know, tier 4, you're starting to get into like more niche territory, and I was just like, cool. Out of everything in tier 4, what do I require, or what would actually be good here? Now, the reason why I lean towards Tauros Paldea here is because number 1 is a fighting type, and fighting is pretty strong offensively, let's not lie. Now, super effective against 5 different types. There's also a dark, you know, typer in my division as well, and Tauros gives me a speed tier that's actually pretty good. Now, my team is overall pretty slow. Like, you're already looking at some of these mons, and Tauros is literally base 100, which again isn't slow, but isn't necessarily fast compared to like some things that other types have, for example. But giving me the speed tier of base 100, outspeeding like, you know, the 90 range and everything below that is actually pretty good for me, to be honest. So yeah, Intimidate is also a pretty strong ability. Also helps out versus ice as well. Obviously, I'm not going to say, well, I'll build against the ice guy, of course. They might be watching this video, you get me? But, you know, having that fighting typing in general just scares, you know, the ice and dark person in my division. Also, it hits very hard in general. Like, 110 attack is no slouch either. And Intimidate is a very good ability. Now, I was considering, like, Floatzel, who's also in tier 4, but I didn't want to be too reliant on Swift Swim. You know, I could definitely think about what other Swift Swimmers I could have other than my Mega Swampert. Galissopod was also considered as well, because like it was also strong against Dark and Psychic. Obviously, first impression is a very strong move, and Galissopod actually has decent bulk, and the priority is pretty nice. But I was just like, cool. I think Tauros Paldea is probably the best thing I could draft in this tier 4 slot, to be honest. And yeah, I think this one will also do me good as well. And then finally in tier 5, the lowest tier possible, why do I keep right clicking, I got Bruxish. Now, if you really write down and chronologue how many tier 5 water types there are, because there's a good amount and a lot of them aren't good. So I was really just like coping. I was like, what could I get? I could get Basculin, I could get Caracosta, but like, as much as I like those Pokemon in general and like using them in the lower tiers, I don't think they're going to perform as well as I think Bruxish will, because Bruxish has that, you know, dual typing of water psychic, and you know, I don't really need Caracosta's rock typing, nor do I need Basculin's pure water typing. Even though it's faster than Bruxish, Bruxish has stab psychic fangs, it has stab crunch thanks to strong jaw, it has stab ice fang thanks to strong jaw, and I think that is coverage and damage output is enough for me to consider using this thing. It has two good abilities in general, like it has Dazzling, so obviously against like the dark type team, not to say I would necessarily bring Bruxish, but you know, being immune to Sucker Punch, which is Dark's like best way of, you know, getting past like faster mons, you know, that's a pretty good thing to have in my opinion. And like realistically, what else was I getting in tier 5? Like, was I drafting Huntail? Was I drafting B-Barrel? Was I drafting Gorobis? Like, the only other thing that I could have considered drafting in tier 5 is Seadra, because I really love that Pokemon. Like, I like Critdra sets, but obviously Seadra has an evolution that we'll be talking about later. Seaking as an electric immunity thanks to its hidden ability Lightning Rod, but Seaking is just a bad Pokemon in general. So, you know, there was really limited options I could really choose from. But yeah, this is my tier 1, my 1 tier 2, my 2 tier 3s, 1 of my tier 4s, and then 1 tier 5. Now, moving on to Mega Evolutions quickly, guys. We have Water obviously has 4 Mega Evolutions it has access to, has Mega Swampert, Mega Gyarados, Mega Sharpedo, and Mega Slowbro. Now, I wasn't drafting Mega Gyarados as much as I like that mon and I think it's a good mon. Obviously, it wasn't snap worthy either because Flying can't use Mega Gyarados. So I had Mega Gyarados free, obviously, but I wasn't gonna go down that angle either. Mega Sharpedo, I don't think of that mon really highly. I'm not gonna lie, and it'll be a waste of a slot. And Mega Slowbro is, you know, Mega Slowbro. Don't really need that. So Swampert was my next. And I was not even next, like this is my only option realistically. With a rain draft, why wouldn't I draft Mega Swampert? It hits very hard, its speed is decent enough like to outspeed most things in rain. It hits, like, again, it just hits very hard, and you know, it helps out my, you know, Pelipper a lot. Like, they synergize well, obviously. Like, if you played any Nat Dex Monotype meta or anything before Generation 8, Mega Swampert Rain or Mono Water is probably one of the best play styles you have access to. So this one's a no-brainer in my opinion, so that's why I drafted Mega Swampert. Now, we'll be back with the additional picks that I decided. Now that we've moved on to the additional picks, like I mentioned at the start of the video, you have 4 additional picks with 400 points to choose from, and obviously your 4 picks have to fit within 400 points. Now the thing is that I didn't necessarily mention either, I didn't mention it a little bit, that depending on your mega, you have more points or less points. Now if we come look at the draft board real quickly, if this thing would like to load, the megas have their own tier list essentially. My screen I might have to zoom out a little bit. Not that it really matters. You can see where it matters, where it's tier 1 and tier 2. Now, tier 1 megas are 20 points, which takes away from 400. And obviously, I drafted Mega Swampert. So that means I have 380 points to draft 4 Pokemon. Now, I was writing the amount of combinations I was writing. You know, I had 1 tier 1, 1 tier 2, 2 tier 5s. I had 4 tier 5s, I had 4 tier 4s. You know, I had 3 tier 3s and 1 tier 4. Like, the amount of combinations I was like, how do I get picks that I want within my 380 point limit? And, you know, I came to the deliberation. I was just like, damn, this is harder than I thought, you know. So I came down to the decision that I needed, wait, I'm even forgetting why I even drafted, to be fair. I'm not gonna lie. how am I even forgetting why I drafted? Yeah, let me just look there quickly. Yeah, now I remember why I drafted. Calm. Like my brain just went blank there, guys. Apologies. But either way, yeah. So the way I decided to do this was I was gonna get a tier 2, I was gonna get a tier 3, and I was gonna get 2 tier 4s. Now, that added up within 380 points, and I'll show you where I started from. Now, the tier 2 I decided to get with my additional points were Kingdra. Now, Kingdra is one of my favorite Pokemon to use in competitive just because, you know, it's Kingdra, like, it's Swift Swim. A lot of my KCL lot will know that Kingdra is one of the best of all time. Now, it has Swift Swim, so obviously it helps out in, you know, Rain as well. It works together well, Mega Swampert on the physical side, Kingdra on the special side, and also the Water Dragon type. And now, obviously I missed out on Dracovish and Walking Wake. I also missed out on Tatsugiri because the Dragon guy took it from me, so that was going to be my tier 5 pick, to be honest, over Bruxish. I was going to get Tatsugiri because I had Spin, and the Water Dragon typing is pretty useful for, you know, water, because unlike Water Flying, while you have a neutrality to Grass on the Water Flying side, your ×4 are weak to Electric, and also Water Dragon is not weak to either Electric or Grass, so obviously defensively that would help out a lot, in addition to having Empoleon as my Water Steel type. So that's why Kingdra was chosen as my first pick. Now my tier 3 pick was Primarina. Now it was either going to be Tapu Fini or Primarina, because Azumarill is a tier 1, and unfortunately Tapu Fini is a tier 2, so I couldn't really go that over Kingdra. Or I could have gone 2 tier 2s, but it would mean I wouldn't be able to get 2 tier 4s or combination of anything else. Like, there was a lot of possibilities, and mixing around that was theory crafting essentially. But yeah, Primarina was my pick here. You know, there's a dark type team, there's a dragon type team. Wouldn't really make sense for me not to draft the Water Fairy type, I'm not gonna lie. Primarina is also pretty solid defensively as well. The typing is strong defensively too. Like, you have a good Spadef stat, you have a decent HP stat, and defense is somewhat average, but you know, if you invest properly, it still has a pretty good damage output plus you know, defensive utility as well. And I think Primarina is going to be a pretty good pick, because you know, yet again, in the dragon matchup, this thing's going to come into clutch. And in the dark matchup, this thing will also be pretty clutch. So having a tier 3 this useful out of like the other ones that really weren't going to be too useful. Like, you could argue Dondozo, but I don't really need Dondozo, nor do I need like another water ground type like Quagsire or Seismitoad, for example. So yeah, that's why Primarina was picked here. Now, this is my third pick was one that I was thinking of from the very beginning, which is Lantern. In an electric division where there's a user using electric, why wouldn't I draft Lantern? I kind of need it. As much as I was trying to theory craft around the fact that I needed Lantern, like Lantern was guaranteed a slot out of you know, the 4 that I had to pick from, and it was hard for me to try and maneuver around what other 3 I needed to pick in addition to Lantern. But this was definitely the first one on my mind when I was thinking of additional picks, because it has the ability Voltozul, which makes it an electric immunity, which isn't ×4 weak to grass like Mega Swampert is, and you know, Lantern actually has good special bulk, so you can make the most out of that. And you know, particularly in the electric matchup, it kind of annoys me how Lantern is only here for the electric matchup, but at the same time there's also a flying type team. So that means that Lantern's electric typing will come into play in that matchup for sure. Also checks, you know, the flying guy obviously picked up Thunderous T as his electric immunity. So obviously Thunderous T is strong against water. So, you know, having Lantern will be very, very helpful for that. So yeah, that's why Lantern is here. And my last pick is none other than Sharpedo. Now, I wanted the Water Dark type. The reason why I wanted the Water Dark type is because there's a Psychic type player in here, and I was roughly afraid that they were going to draft a Spaffra and start, you know, Calm Mind, Stored Power in everybody. But either way, even the fact that they didn't draft, you know, a Spaffra, they still have some strong Psychic type Pokemon that I don't necessarily deal with. Like, sure, Empoleon resists Steel, but there's also I mean, Empoleon resists Psychic, it also resists Steel. But even though you resist Psychic, there's still a Mega Gallade on the other side of the field, which obviously destroys Empoleon completely. While Primarina does help out with that, just having a Dark type in general as my Psychic immunity will be nice, despite the fact that Sharpedo has 0 defensive utility to its name. But just having that Dark typing is pretty nice. Speed boost also gives me a little bit of a win con, and I do think in that Psychic matchup, Sharpedo will really show its you know, strengths and you know, maybe weaknesses, we'll see. But obviously the lack of defensive stats hurts this one. But either way, that is my mono water draft for the MRL draft league. Hopefully, you know, week 1 comes out soon, because I do want to get these games out of the way. I am pretty excited to play in this draft, honestly. Will I regret choosing water? We'll see, because I did want to, I was either between water or psychic, and I was just like, I'll just go water. It's my favorite typing to use in monotype, and I do like weather, you know, archetypes on water. So yeah, I feel confident. Like, I'm going into every game expecting to win. Like, that's how it should be. Electric might be a bit difficult. Ice as well, but we'll find ways around it. I know we will, like we always do in draft leagues. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts on my draft. Is it bad? Is it good? I personally don't think it's bad. Like, the way that the types were and what I could get, like, I feel like I got the best possible combination. Now, some people will argue, why did I choose Toxapex as my tier 1? But just having that balance of, you know, defensiveness on my team when it comes to Toxapex, Primarina, Lantern, Pelipper, and Polion, even Taurus Paldea to a certain extent, particularly probably in the dark matchup, like, just having something like that. You know, I can switch it up. Like, I'm not one-dimensional. That's what I like about a draft. You know, I don't want to be one-dimensional what I can bring. But yeah, thanks for watching again, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.